We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrificed?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent. Hi, Parth. Good to see you. It's been a while, yeah, since you and I together. Well, I mean, I saw you yesterday, but recording, I guess. Yeah, what is this? The creator discussion, or is this the bottoms discussion, or wow? Or is this is not a discussion at all, Trent? Or is this the Saw? Or is this have something to do with Saw X, Saw 10? I'm confused. I have no idea. What I do know. I'll let you do this. Yeah. Thanks. Step aside. Clear out. I didn't know if you had it, so I didn't. I was gonna do it, but now I'm gonna let you. No. Wow. Our meeting is gonna end in 10 minutes. Oh, is that so? Wow. When MJ gets the ball in ISO, just trust him. He's fine. Parth, what have you been eating? Trent, my mother cooked a thing called egg burji, which is basically scrambled eggs, with Indian spices and stuff thrown in it. Some onions, some tomato. That sounds better than normal scrambled eggs in pretty much every way. I much prefer it. And so we had that for dinner. What about you? Unfortunately, and we only have 9.5 minutes due to our Zoom room. But we'll improvise. But we spent all our time just reminiscing like old friends do. I know, we should stop catching up and chatting and just having laughs and enjoying each other's company before we record. Even though that's what makes it all worthwhile, I think we should stop that so we could leave more time. Sure. On air. Oh, you're agreeing. Okay, so unfortunately, the most exciting thing I can talk about is this glass of water from this medieval times Trent, cup. You must have eaten something today. What did you have for lunch? Or snack? I had to drive Sarah Brotman, friend of the show. We to the train station this morning, and then she offered me. She was like, I have a coupon code for a free coffee at this place, and I'm never going to come to New Brunswick again, so we should use it while we can. And then she got a cold brew, and she's like, you can't alter it or make it sweeter in any way. So I was like, give me a sip. And then I had a sip. I was like, this tastes like fucking pee. And then I just got an avocado toast, and that's the last thing I had. Very good. But what I wanted to talk about before you derailed me is I was having a sneeze attack 15 minutes ago, and my dad, whenever he's drinking beer, when he's on his second beer, he has a crazy sneeze attack that won't stop until he's drunk his third beer. Wow. And isn't that crazy? And it's over my whole life, every time we go out to dinner, on the second beer, sneeze attack. That'll go on for minutes. This is one of the more bizarre hereditary things I've seen. And I swear, I have it too. But I had not drunk any beer prior to this recording. Because you don't do that. To shock everyone. But I was having my sneeze attack, and I thought maybe, let's have the dog that bit you, hair of the dog that bit you, and let's drink beer now to stop the sneezing. But then I held off. I was like, let's record. Let's get serious. This isn't Drunk Pod. This isn't Jaws 4. This is the bottoms discussion. No, wait, this is the creator discussion. No, wait. This is actually the intro. Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week, Trent, who are we continuing our discussion with? We're continuing our discussion, our delightful conversation with Saw X cinematographer Nick Matthews. And I'd say, Parth, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the beef of the interview, the heart of our talk with him. One could say the heart and soul of the interview. Heart and soul. Trent, did I tell you it's going to be a month of Saw, that this is a 3-part interview? And every week I'm going to saw off a little bit of my arm until it's completely gone. In honor of Saw Week! If if 10 craft services fans like our next post, I'll cut my freaking arm off. Don't you think that's a realistic goal? If it was 100, I wouldn't have to cut my arm off. We've never gotten that many likes.
So that was cool. Yeah, Nick Matthews, what a guy, right? Really nice.
I really enjoyed it. Wasn't it our first interview? No, I would say it was the first interview in a while. Maybe just
It was our first interview in a while. Because I did the Orange Sofa one on my own. Before that was
Bottoms.
Yes, that was a while.
And then there was a long gap prior to that.
And then there was Oppenheimer before that.
But I would say it was great to knock the rust off with our good friend, director of photography, Nick Matthews.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to part 1, which came out last week, he talks about how he became a cinematographer, entering the film industry, and sort of how he gets involved with this movie. This episode is going to be more scenes. This is a little more spoilerific, if that's interesting to people.
If you've managed to somehow not see Saw X in a theater yet.
Yeah, it's done very well at theaters.
Yes.
So if you're one of the many few that have watched this movie, this is the episode for you, because he's going to talk a little bit about how a bunch of scenes were made.
We're going to talk about specific scenes, specific kills, favorite kills.
Favorite kills might be next week. I haven't edited the interview quite yet. But.
Wow, I forgot that there was going to be a whole third part to this, and my arm will just have to wait. And with that being said, do you
know what doesn't have to wait?
Do you hear? It's like a film projector that's getting close.
So I believe the first trap we see in the movie is the eyeball trap. Yeah. Can you talk about shooting that? Because just some background on my experience with the Saw franchise.
Parth has seen all of them.
Well, my friend Kate Rotunda is a huge Saw fan, and was like, we have to watch it. And so I've seen all of them in pretty quick succession, but never in a theater. And I saw this one in a theater with her, and I felt like legitimately nauseous. So thank you for that. Yeah, so if you could speak on the eyeball trap, because it was awesome.
Yeah. So that was written into the script. But what the script is and what things become are two different things in some ways. And our production designer, Anthony Stabley, was, in many ways, like, him and Kevin were the masterminds of what these traps looked like. Anthony worked with an entire traps team. I think they had 8 people on their traps department team. And they were constantly creating renders of new ideas and new possibilities for us to present to Kevin, for them to present to the producers, to get sign off on what these things were. And they worked with concept artists. So it's people sitting around and thinking like, well, what makes sense to, and what sort of like devices make sense, and what could John use, and how could we make this? And so part of what happens is we started seeing things go up and being set up, and Kevin and I would go in. We test every trap about 4 times before we have to shoot it. So during prep, we had about 10 weeks to prep. And actually, because of the way the movie was shot, we ended up losing the prosthetics companies that were involved with the production from the beginning of the shoot, or from the beginning. I wouldn't say the beginning of the shoot, from the beginning of the pre-production. And those people stepped off for creative differences. And then they ended up hiring this amazing company called Fractured Effects that did Westworld. They did The Nick. They did The Eyes of Tammy Faye. They're fucking fantastic. And when I saw their prosthetics, I was like, well, that's why these cost tens of thousands of dollars. This is why it took a team of 10 weeks to pull this off. Well, when we found out it was going to take them 10 weeks to pull off the prosthetics, that was 5 weeks out from production. And so we had this horrible choice of, do we push the movie by 2 months and then try to shoot it all at once? And the first AD and the line producer were just like, if you do that, all the crew will move on, because it was split between last year and this year. So what we ended up doing was we shot basically 15 days but in or 18 days in last year, and it was all the non-prosthetics work. And then we shot all the material that involved the prosthetics this year. And so that gave Kevin and I an extra like month to shot list things. And so during the prep, what's happening is we're testing all the traps, we're testing the stunts, we're testing the props, we're testing, you know, all the workability of each of these. And so that is all ongoing as the movie is ongoing. We're seeing renders, we're seeing locations, we're seeing, you know, we're talking about palette. That is all ongoing. And Kevin is just constantly in meetings for hours and hours every day. And, you know, a lot of his time is taken up with the actors, with the producers. There's a lot of big financial decisions being made. And so every free second I get with Kevin, we're shot listing. You know, we're talking about what we want to do, how we want to do it. And so we shot listed that sequence together. And one of the big things we wanted to do was say, first of all, it takes place in John Kramer's head. So we have a lot of license to go crazy with it. Secondly, we don't want the audience to know it's in John Kramer's head until the end of the trap. So we shoot it like a traditional trap, but we also wanted a trap that said, fuck you, Saw's back, you know? And so it's 360 dolly track. It's, you know, we're using a lambda head to do these, like when the finger breaks happen to do these like twist.
That was what made me nauseous.
Good. You know, and that we wanted Saw, I sort of see as like, it's a language of exclamation points. It's, you know, it's very big, it's bold, it's sort of in your face. I always say it's like Seven by way of a new metal music video. So it's like a little, you know, Disturbed and Marilyn Manson and all those, you know, those videos. But we didn't want it to feel, there's a little bit of a cheesiness to some of those, you know, and I think we still wanted to feel some of what was campy, but not played in a camp way. Do it in a really straightforward way, but still have fun, still have these big giallo moments. So we shot this circular dolly track, you know, and actually that trap is built in underneath the control room on the left side. There's like a wall. Well, the trap is technically, we just built it in there because it's technically set in the US and, you know, we shot the whole movie in Mexico. So we still had to differentiate our palettes between the two. But in general, what we did with the traps was they did it in an art design, and I also did it with the lighting, which is we would take the naturalistic sort of scene work and then we would play the trap as like the heightened version of that. So the traps all, you know, have lighting cues attached to them. The traps all have, you know, like in this case, we see this guy in the hospital and then we see the janitor now has a very similar device and very similar thing sort of as a, you know, this kind of moral play and tie in to his, you know, his sin, so to speak. And so, so we ended up settling on like, I wanted to take the kind of steely blues and the, you know, sort of monochrome, like blue, white, gray, silver, which we were using to represent the US. And I wanted to take that and sort of play it in like the more heightened bluey kind of green sort of, we have flickering lights. We put in cobwebs, you know, we ended up making it feel like as sort of horror basementy as we could. And my dolly grip had to do an amazing job because it was built in around all these cinder poles and we couldn't actually put dolly track in there. So they had to do the moves like free-handed, you know, and it's fun because it's like you're shooting at 6 frames a second, 270-degree shutter for those like stutter frames. And, you know, it's like I'm on a 24 to 290, like, you know, 12 to 1 ingenue. And I'm doing these like snap zooms as I'm like whipping around and getting dizzier and dizzier, but it's a lot of fun. I think, you know, and we just wanted to punctuate it all visually. And, you know, Kevin is a mastermind and like an encyclopedia of knowledge. So he really knew what he needed and it was very much talked about. But then once you get into the flow, it's like I have a B cam. We run 2 cameras on everything we shoot. So I'm operating A cam, my B camera operator's there. And, you know, we're doing these fun, like Dutch angles where we're twisting the camera and pushing it in and just trying to have fun with it, really.
Awesome.
Is it because it's so effects oriented that you're always rolling 2 cameras?
No, it's Kevin's style. It's Kevin.
Oh, cool.
Like, you know, Kevin has never had a movie with just 1 camera. And frankly, the last 4 movies I've shot were all 2 cameras. The director's just Not everyone resonates with that. I love single camera. I would love to do another single camera movie. That sounds extremely exciting to me, actually. But the last 4 movies I've shot, we did 2 cameras. It's for a variety of reasons. One, most of the time, it's nice to not, shoot say you're shooting a master, then you're shooting 2 overs, and you're shooting singles on each character in, like, let's say a diner situation, 2 people are sitting at a table. That's 6 setups right there. If you run that 3 takes per setup, so that you have that for each, that's 18, takes worth of shots. If you can kill that or cut that in half by shooting 2 cameras, there are compromises made inevitably. In this case, yes, the effects is a huge reason to shoot 2 cameras, because the prosthetic costs, tens of thousands of dollars, and you only can build 2 or 3 of them. It's not like there's an infinite number of arms or legs or brains or hands. Those are all individual pieces, and they will wear out. Like the finger breaks, that's a prosthetic, and it's when the finger break happens, it's like they can only finger break it so many times before the joint gets destroyed and they have to rebuild. So that is a reason to shoot 2 cameras. But the other side of it is, most days Kevin is presenting. We'll talk about it, he'll build it, and then the night before, Kevin always does a pass at the shot list based on his new thoughts, his new ideas, and usually they're about 6 pages long, and they're written. They're like written, it's this piece and it does this, so it's not like just like shot number. It is a written out descriptor, but they're long and there's a lot of material, and we're shooting a lot of shots in a day, so a lot of it is. And for me personally, with the way in which I light, I would say most of the movies I've lit, 2 cameras doesn't compromise the lighting, because I'm usually lighting from either from above or from a side, or from below. And so I'm usually not doing frontal light, but you can usually, if you light from the side, you can usually bring a camera in on anything on the dark side of that image and it'll look great. So you can get a profile shot, get something 3/4 at the same time, as long as there's space to kind of, and the lensing in which you're doing is long enough that you don't see yourself. So, and running 2 cameras may mean that you end up playing both cameras 80% of the time, and then there's like certain shots that you just can't play both cameras on. And that's just the nature of the beast. So yeah, that's kind of, Kevin is an editor at heart. Like, Kevin's cut so many movies. He's worked on a lot of films. He's been hired to come in and recut movies after they were shot, already cut by somebody else. So, like, take an example of like the scene where Parker Sears comes in and, he sees himself in the mirror. He's got the gun out. Then he whips around a corner. He sees the pig mask. He shoots it. It falls to the ground. Boom, a head gets revealed. It's, Valentina's head. And then he turns around and Amanda smacks him in the face. There's some directors I would shoot that with, and they would shoot that in 4 shots. And with Kevin, there's a shot for the head reveal. There's a close-up on the head, on the ground. There's just a shot of the pig mask being shot. There's a wide, and we shot all of that sequence in half a day. So, it's just like you have a lot of material you have to shoot quickly.
We can't help but ask, what is your favorite torture setup trap of the film that you got to shoot?
In this film? I would say...
You can also give your favorite in all films if you have one.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity.
For me, the rack is like the most uncomfortable in just like all of the films. It's hard because I worked on this one, and so like I was there on set. There were 2 that made me kind of like jolt a bit while we were shooting them. The pipe bombs, because of his arms just looked like fucking disaster, and you're just like the muscles, and like you're just like, oh, you might live, Diego, but your arms are thrashed and your muscles are destroyed. Like, you'll have permanent scar, and that just like watching him cut into that was really brutal. On set, it was less so because, the arms are being hoisted by like a C-stand, and you have somebody pumping blood, like standing 2 feet off the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But when you looked at just the monitor, you were like, this is grotesque. The brain surgery trap, it's very simple. Like, I have different traps I like for different reasons. The bone marrow trap is like probably my most
I think that's my favorite. That was my most that was my most disturbed moment.
Yeah, it's just raw, and it's so,
and the prosthetic looks so good.
Ugh. Yeah. When like you see the little skin flap, like as she just pops through it on her leg, it's just like, oh my god. Yeah, and like they even did, because we tested that trap a number of times, and so we ended up putting linoleum down painted to look like concrete over the entire floor, so that when we had to do resets of the blood, we could just wipe it up instead of doing like, just concrete. And yeah, I mean, that trap is like deeply disturbing. I think like watching somebody put like something into their exposed leg is really upsetting. And then, we had to get all these beautiful like little inserts of the bone marrow. There's only one in there that we fucked up, which there's just one shot where our close focus was too far in, and it doesn't matter because it's only on screen for like 2 seconds. But Kevin, I was just like, God damn that. I wish we had retaken that shot. But no, in general, like we end up, the last day of the shoot, it was all inserts. And so we just had a pile of inserts we shot, and I had to kind of remember and match the lighting throughout the movie for those insert shots. But like all the bone marrow inserts, all that stuff, that's stuff we did on the last day. But the trap itself, cutting through the prosthetic, her face, all the dialogue material around that we all did in like a day and a half. And then the brain surgery did really it was a great prosthetic. Like it was a prosthetic that sat on his head and then was encapsulated. And so like we could literally, the only CG blood, there's very little CG blood in this movie.
I was about to ask about with the bloodboarding part.
Yeah, that's all real. It's not blood, but it's all real.
Yeah.
And there's, the bloodboarding trap was fun because I was just like, I'm going to go bold, like giallo, like steely blue, because the blood will read great on it, and then like blast of red, and it also like full circled the color palette in the movie. And we had a lot of different discussions about how to do the bloodboarding. It's like you can't safely, what it comes down to is you can't safely pour fake blood, like no matter the consistency or what it's made out of, which it was like chocolate syrup and like some other stuff. So it smells good, actually, rarely, but you can't. That's it will at a minimum aggravate someone's eyes.
It's kind of dangerous no matter what you use. Just inherently. Yeah,
and actually, it is. There is no, like, even if it's water, it's like it is. Someone's being boarded. You know what I mean? And so like you can't breathe very well. So that was a big. Obviously we're using stunt. The big conversation was, how do we sell John and Carlos in this trap while we know we have to use stunt people to play them? And so what it became was, we if you watch the film again, you'll see like we start on the characters out, in the sort of main room, and then we rack to the characters as their faces are being covered in blood. And that was a way we could transition into it. And then we're still covering John and Carlos in blood and dripping that, getting them covered and soaking, and we're shooting their close-up pieces. But it was a lot of material to shoot, and very like all of us got blood all over us, and the cameras got blood all over them, and it's pretty fun. And they did a great job with the makeup on the stunt doubles, and also like it's this, because you can't put a child into that situation, so that becomes like a real conversation. And we figured out how to do it. And one of the fun things, like even with the brain surgery trap, by the time we got to that trap, I got COVID on the movie after, like, we basically shot all the control room stuff, and then we shot all the main floor. So I didn't know what the lighting for, like, I have a document that's like the lighting for every scene on the main floor in the control room, so that every time we went out, like, and I did this for the whole movie, because my crew is all, like, we worked in Mexico and they're Spanish. Like, I don't speak Spanish. I only speak very little. And they speak, some of them spoke more English. My camera department was very bilingual. My grip and electric department was less so. And so I would make like documents where I'd take photos at the location, and then I would draw in where the lights go, or draw in where the light comes from and the color of the light. And so I had a document that basically for the main game room, we built every light you see in that room is a film light, but it's all built into practical houses so that they all look like real fixtures inside of things. And so I have complete LED control of every single light in that room on a console. And so I can change all of it. Obviously, in the context of the movie, John's not a DJ with the lights. The idea is all these traps are on circuit timers. And so when things fire up, lighting cues happen in conjunction with that. So things go on or off, but I didn't really want things to feel like it's like, oh, like the bloodboarding trap starts, lights turn on, lights underneath turn on, but it's not like happening during the gameplay. So during the brain surgery trap, we do a lighting cue transition. Billy comes out. I had a lot of fun lighting Billy for his first moment on screen, and it was just like, let's go big. You know what I mean? It's Billy. Like, people are going to be excited. And even doing the brain surgery trap, like, because I'd had COVID, I was like, look, we went down for like a few days because a few people tested positive, and then we came back. And I was like, I just don't have the energy to operate a Venice with like a prime on it. Like, I need a B cam op who also did second unit. His name was Edgar Luzania, great person and great operator, but he bumped up from B to A. And then we brought in this guy who was also named Nick, but everyone called him Oso because he's the Ox. And so he was fantastic as well. And so he came on as B camera. And so those guys were operating and shooting. But once you've set the lighting, I mean, Mateo is basically locked in that space, and Kevin has good visual ideas. So we had those cameras going and shooting the pieces. And while we were doing that, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to I have a Blackmagic 6K camera, and I grabbed that and threw it 70 to 200 on it with some filters. And then I was just like I set it to 6 frames a second, 270-degree shutter. And I was doing lens whacking and zooming and all those stutter frames you see in that sequence were things I shot on my Blackmagic. So we just didn't have time to do everything. So it's like one of the things that's fun is you can use like this prosumer or whatever you want to call that Blackmagic, like technology. And, there are probably 20 to 30 shots in the movie that I did on the Blackmagic. I mean, the really important shot of John that's like right on the right on the paddle of the bloodboard on the seesaw, that's my Blackmagic, because we were able to just like toss it on there rather than doing like a full like speed rail Venice build. I could just put the Blackmagic right on there and like strap it on, and we could shoot the shot within like 2 to 3 minutes. And also I didn't care if my camera we covered it in plastic, but I didn't care if it got doused and stuff, and I was like, we have to have this shot, otherwise the audience isn't right in the bloodboarding trap with John, and so I sort of have treated that camera like a cinematic GoPro, and just use it, and get these like great little pieces. I've used it on all of the last 4 movies I've shot. I've used it to get some little piece, or even if you just don't want to have like your camera assistants are busy, you know what I mean? And they're like busy, like flipping a build. And I'm like, well, I want to have a camera available that I can just pick up and go shoot, but that can cut with the Venice, cut with the Mini LF, cut with the Alexa Mini, and get graded to match.
Parth, hi. What'd you think of all that?
Nah, I'm kidding.
I thought the interview was freaking awesome.
Wow, you caught me there. You got me there.
Nick Matthews, I would never do you like that. Thanks for coming on the show.
So you do Nick Matthews. That's interesting. Yes, what? Thank you so much to Nick Matthews. We enjoyed continuing this conversation, even though we've had this conversation long ago, and this is just a singular interview split into 3 parts. But we enjoyed continuing this conversation with you.
It feels like we're talking to you every freaking day on this end. I don't know if it feels the same.
We're happy to.
Yeah, no, it's great.
But yeah, and thank you, dear listener, if you've made it this far and are, unlike Sophia Alexis, listening to the outro.
Sophia Alexis doesn't listen to the outro?
Sophia Alexis says that she rarely listens to the intros.
As the host of the show, I mean, maybe this makes sense, but I like only listen to the intro and the outro.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would hope that the inverse is true for most listeners. I would rather they listen to the interview than us babble on about water or whatever. But anyways, if you want to see some of our internet babblings, you can go check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Those are social media platforms. And I guess I don't know what you're listening to this episode on right now, but Trent, if they wanted to continue listening on this platform, whatever one it is, but if they wanted to go on a different platform, is that possible for them?
Just some platforms that you could consider are Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Stitcher,
or frankly,
Pandora.
Wherever you get Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. You can find us. Remember when the interview was about to start and Nick Matthews was like, "Craft services. I've listened to
this."
And I was like, what are you talking about, dude?
I looked at your face and your jaw was literally on the floor. Wait, that's like, the exact face you made.
I was like, you're like a real cool person, though. What are you doing spending time with us losers? Just talking.
We're all right.
Yeah, what are you doing just spending your time with Parth and I? Just two all right guys talking about movies. And if that's not the thesis statement of this podcast, I don't know what is.
Yeah. So next week you can check us out. Part 3 coming out next week. And then after that, we've got a whole bunch of discussions that we've yet to do. So
gotta play catch up.
Maybe it'll be Saw X. Maybe it'll be Bottoms. Maybe it'll be the Creator. Yeah, that's the one we missed. So yeah, it's exciting times for craft services.
Parth, eventually the chickens have to come home to roost, and it's not like you can just interview people without properly discussing and analyzing their films. So,
well, Trent, our Zoom says that we have less than a minute left and won't tell us exactly how many seconds. So I'm just going to cut you short and say, see you next week, folks.
Bye, Parth.